All right, welcome in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. It is 7 a.m. Friday the 13th.
Oh.
I feel like we make as big a deal of that as we used to.
The movie or the holiday? I'll call it holiday
Both.
that day.
Have they tried to remake that movie?
Want to say yes.
I don't feel like in modern times they've tried to redo it like they have some of the others. Like Halloween.
Yeah, Halloween definitely more recent. But I feel like they did one Friday the 13th like 15 years ago.
It got a little silly towards the end of its run. I was a fan of the series or the
TV show or the movie series?
No, the TV show, no. No. Definitely not. But doesn't give us the scaries like it once did.
No, but that was also a time where we were afraid of a child's doll.
Did some damage, though.
He did.
Now we got kids crawling out of TVs. So, totally different thing. We got a great show for you today. Aaron Feld, former Oregon and Miami strength coach, spent some time in Alabama and Georgia, is going to be with us for a couple of segments. Talk Miami in the national championship game, talk Oregon next season. He's been around some of those programs and just college football in general, kind of where he sees it, what he likes about it, and maybe where things are headed. Josh Pate's going to spend a couple segments with us, not in studio, but in the 8 o'clock hour, he'll talk to us about the state of college football heading in 2026, where his focus is right now. Ari Wasserman has a couple of lists that are out. We mentioned his best quarterback list yesterday. He's got an article up now about Alabama maybe canceling a non-conference series and the impact that that would have. And then Birmingham Stallions head coach A.J. McCarron with us at 9:30 this morning. Just get his thoughts on kind of where things are, where things going for him as a first-time head coach that doesn't know a lot about his team yet, but is trying to get things ready for the UFL season, which kicks off March the 27th, that Friday night. The season kicks off on Fox. So a lot to get to today. We'll have our Super Sofa Game of the Week towards the end of the show. We do have, dare I say, let me double-check this quickly for you, John.
Okay.
Dare I say.
Anticipation.
Borderline all-timers today.
Okay.
Borderline all-timers. Maybe.
Definitely
close.
Memorable.
Yeah, definitely memorable.
Okay.
Definitely memorable.
All
Bad
right.
box scores of the day coming up later in the show. That's in the final segment of the show.
Sold me.
Each and every day we'll be tuned into that. But the big news yesterday was Ole Miss quarterback Trinidad Chambliss granted a 6th season of eligibility by a Mississippi State court judge. The NCAA can still appeal this, so this is not over. I understand the NCAA wants to be right. I understand that they want to say, hey, we have to protect what's ours. We have to make sure that things are in line with what we believe and where we want them and inside of our guidelines. But why do you spend the resources to potentially appeal this? Do you then, I guess, set the precedent that every state court can then go file to have their players eligible? And you would think that that's probably going to win. I mean, we've seen it now with Chambliss, Bediako, others. I guess it'd be setting a bad precedent to not even appeal it. Apparently, they'll be in Knoxville today working on the Joey Aguilar case. We'll see how that one goes. If we have updates from it, we'll share those with you. But they also have a lot going on right now. And you don't know how much time they have to actually spend on all these different cases. It's just, it's a lot. But as it appears right this second, Trinidad Chambliss will play football for Ole Miss this year, which is massive for Pete Golding, massive for Ole Miss. If that actually were to take place, I think we have a completely different viewpoint of that football team. Now, I think we look at that team in a very different way. All of a sudden, we're looking at they could be college football playoff team. Kejuan Lacey back in the backfield. Obviously, your defensive staff is still intact, in place. You think that group's going to be pretty good again? So, are you surprised that this came down from the Mississippi judge, John, that Trinidad Chambliss is going to be eligible?
Not really, no. What I found out, I was not surprised that it happened in Mississippi, not too far from campus, not unlike the Bediako thing. I was not surprised. I believe Conrad said it was in a town of 130 people. So it does seem odd that where they chose to do it, but also you went home court for that one. So that's not fully surprising to me. And I fully expect this to at least go to one more courtroom because the NCAA will appeal because I don't think they will just stop right here, right now after this. So while, yes, this is a win for you, Ole Miss, I don't think this is done. But no, I'm not surprised this went out because I'm not saying the judge is biased, but you went in the home state where it was. And, yeah, this ruling right here making him eligible, it's what we've seen previously by other ones. So I feel like they're at least holding serve with that.
The NCAA released a statement. This decision in a state court illustrates the impossible situation created by differing court decisions that serve to undermine rules agreed to by the same NCAA members who later challenged them in court. That is fair when you think about it. Like, you've signed up for this. You've agreed to be a part of this. You've agreed to their rules. Then you challenge the rules that you agreed upon in court. I realize a lot has changed, but it does feel a little bit backwards. We will continue to defend the NCAA's eligibility rules against repeated attempts to rob future generations of the opportunity to compete in college and experience the life-changing opportunities only college sports can create. I mean, there's some other things that can create life-changing opportunities. We got the G League, minor league baseball.
ELF exists.
The ELF League. Apparently, this is total sidebar. Have you seen the announcer list for the IFL?
Yeah, that was.
What's happening there?
I don't know.
Are they playing 1,000 games?
It feels like it.
Or is there just a different broadcast crew for every game they play? Like, you get one game. Anthony Herron, you're on one game. If you guys haven't seen this, it was like 70 broadcasters.
It looked like the broadcast graphic ESPN put out for their college football
for the whole season.
Yeah.
I need answers on that. We'll try to find that and share it with you via social media. The NCAA and its member schools are making changes to deliver more benefits to student athletes, but the patchwork of state laws and inconsistent, conflicting court decisions make partnering with Congress essential to provide stability for current and future college athletes. I am surprised the NCAA is pushing the narrative publicly of partnering with Congress the way that it is now. It seemed to be like a suggestion for a little bit, something that maybe they wanted, something that maybe they thought was a good idea. Now it's beginning to seem like, hey, we're pumping this in the public eye as much as we can. We need people to get on board with this. We need Congress to know that we're serious about this. We need this to happen. They're trying to push that thing further ahead now, I feel like, than I've seen them before. Because it used to be some of the administrators were pushing that, saying that had to happen. That's the only way we were going to make any ground or do anything. Now it feels like the actual NCAA, they're standing up on the podium essentially saying, hey, Congress, we need your help. Let's get it done now. Come on, let's go. Let's get this thing moving here.
I don't like that they're begging this way.
They don't have a choice, John.
But I know that they have to. But
we're just going to keep this merry-go-round of legal action that they're not going to be able. I mean, you heard the statement. This is an impossible task. Every state is different. Every state court is going to treat things differently, and they're just going to continue on and on and on and on and on. They may get to the point where they don't have the legal team to be able to manage this.
Right. I just it feels like when Goodell came out and said, well, college never seemed to ask us about trying to do anything. Well, hold on, like at no point no one thought to reach out to the NFL about potential scheduling. And so no one's thought now to maybe reach out to college. So instead you're choosing to beg to do that. Now, if I'm all these other colleges and schools at this point, all right, if you're begging for congressional oversight, it feels like, all right, well, now we can run amok. We can do whatever we want because we can just take it to court and we could probably outlast them. I hate that it's come to this, but sadly it's had to come to this.
Honestly, if you're president of the NCAA at any time, let's go back 10 years, 20 years, 40 years, 5 years. Would you have called Roger Goodell and said, hey, man, when should we schedule games? This doesn't feel like a real thing. Because I can also see Roger Goodell saying, well, I would suggest you stay off every Sunday. Late in the season, stay off Saturday because we're also going to have games there. Try to avoid Black Friday. We're going there. And if you could stay off Thursday night for this prime game, we got some company that thinks they can do football now and paid us $1 billion for it. Just get your games off that. You know what? We're going to give you Tuesday night and Wednesday night. Thanks for playing.
Unless if they've
and
all
you can
on
have
a holiday.
Saturdays in August and September. Like, what was he going to say? Oh, we'll clear the way for you. They just had a halftime show with not a word of English. They're playing more international games than ever right now. You don't think he's looking for every opportunity to expand and try to earn more in different places and find extra revenue? Yeah, college football. Let me get out of your way. I understand the thought process of trying to make that call, but what grounds are you really going to gain by doing that? I don't think any. Roger Goodell doesn't care about college football.
Not one bit.
Ole Miss released a statement. We're excited for Trinidad and grateful to Judge Whitewell for making the right decision today.
Okay.
Here's the problem with social media right now. I don't know what's real. I watched a dog video last night that I swore was real, and I was laughing my rear end off at it, and then I found out it's AI.
It's AI? They got you.
All right, we're to the point now where we can't. It's literally Steve Austin, DTA. Don't trust anybody. Now we're to the point where you got to prove to me that it is real. Because some of the photographs that were being shared from the courtroom yesterday, I don't know if they're real or not, but if they are, this whole thing became hilarious. Hence, when Joe Judge took the stand, I tried to find more background on this. Why is he up there to begin with? Do we know? I can't figure it out. But somehow, some way, this is where the conversation went. And you think some things have gone wild on social media recently. This one right here about took the cake.
But we would have to educate. This is always a tough conversation to have. And it's not going to be a popular thing. This is the truth. We would have to educate significant others who may have been pregnant during the season or going to have a baby during the season. And you have to educate them on, you have this baby in the middle of the season. That father has to play good football, right? It's a day-by-day production business. He has to be ready to perform and go out there and play. And when I say that is, you need to let him sleep. He needs to be in another room, detached. You have to explain to the mother, like, hey, listen, he ain't waking up for midnight feedings. After the season, he's full metal jacket. You do whatever you want with him. And he can change every diaper. But in the season, he's got to have a different priority.
Does Trinidad Chambliss have a baby, or did he have a baby in the last season? I didn't hear about that.
I don't know. Didn't play like he did because I don't think he was up for midnight feedings.
Trinidad Chambliss testified yesterday. Fair State coach Tony Anisi pulled him from his office and told him he'd be medically redshirted prior to the 2022 season, something that he was not aware of, allegedly. So this thing went a lot of different directions yesterday. I don't know like where we are as far as what a lot of this means. I mean, he's eligible as of right now. But some of the things that were brought up yesterday just didn't really seem to have a lot to do with this. That one didn't go over well yesterday for old Joe Judge, I'll just say.
No. It's a bad look.
Hey, ladies. Your men that are providing you with babies don't need to be doing anything while they're working their hardest.
Out here working. What are you doing? He's got to grind. You can't pick up some slack, ladies? Come on. That's
I would
what it
say,
felt
like, for our first child, like, I was beyond blessed. I had a 6 a.m. radio show, and it was about 40 minutes away from where we lived. My wife was like, listen, just wake me up. I'll go in there and do it. Like, there's nothing you can do. But there are also times in which you just got to go in there and just try.
Right.
So, but still, you can't. He's got to play good football. What? I want to see Joe Judge educating a college-aged female on proper infant nighttime etiquette. I want to see how that goes.
You think it's a one-on-one, or is it like a class, like a seminar thing? I'm sure he didn't just do this to one person.
I'm not answering that.
You don't think he's up like with an earpiece? All right, ladies. Here's what you have to do.
I mean,
he's a Peloton instructor.
I might ask Aaron Feld this when he comes in. Just as a strength coach at a college, you know, hey, How often have you had to pull a player's girlfriend, fiance, significant other to the side and say, we need to sit down. We'll go to the whiteboard. Here's how we handle baby waking up in the middle of the night during season. 1, player doesn't get woken up. Why is that? What if I'm tired? What if I've been up 4 other times on this particular evening? Well, he's got to play good football.
And number 2, he must play good football. Refer to number 1.
Because female doesn't need to play good mom during the day.
No.
That would, why would we need that? For 3-week-old.
Apparently we don't.
I tried to find the genesis of this and kind of where we were and how this came out. I can't find it. I don't really know. I can't find the full transcript of the case. I probably could if I looked harder. I didn't look that hard, but why are we getting to that? If where we were going here was that he was injured at some point and then should not have had that year count against him because he wasn't healthy.
Right.
This is okay. If you say so. 800-239-9569. You want to get in? 800-239-WJOX. You can text into the show, 205-834-9450. Be a part there. You can also tweet in at Mac and Q. Russell Cherry tweets in. It just means more. Well, it depends. Which parent you are, I guess, apparently. I'm interesting to just think that kind of that's where we got last night with this whole thing. But, hey, there we were. Trinidad Chambliss got another year. As of now, it will be challenged again. NCAA is not just going to let this ride. They're not just going to sit back and say, this is it. All right. I mean, Greg Hendricks is saying the judge in the Chambliss case is an Ole Miss grad. I get it. That's why I'm not referencing the other pictures either, because I don't know exactly what's real. I don't know exactly what's real, what's not. Lee in Columbus. Is that Ohio or Georgia?
Mississippi.
Oh, it is Mississippi.
The SIP. Welcome in, Lee.
Yeah. Hey, I listened and watched some of the trial yesterday.
Was it on Court TV, by the way?
No, it wasn't on Court TV, but it was on Talk Radio, Mississippi.
I was about to say, I thought I saw the Court TV graphics at the bottom, and I was thinking, college football, we made it.
Oh, yeah. We're here now.
We made it.
Well, it was wild because the Joe Judge thing, first of all, they were talking about Chambliss' sleep apnea affecting his ability to play on the field, because when he had the tonsil problem and the adenoid problem, he would have sleep apnea, according to the testimony of his mother. So they were asking they tried to qualify Judge as a expert witness. The judge wouldn't allow that, but as they went on, they tried to establish the fact that his illness was so bad that it affected his ability to play. So that's when Judge went off on this, telling parents that the husband needed to sleep. I about spit my coffee out because I thought, what is he talking about? But that's the genesis of that.
Thank you for clarifying that. I appreciate that. That was John that hung up on you, not me. Don't put that on me. I did see, though, the best tweet yesterday was John Summerall. He tweeted 2 kids, his 2 infant children, like at the baby gate at the bottom of the stairs. On second thought, football season over a decade ago, dad in charge, kids tried escaping, diapers were changed. That was the end season, by the way.
Yeah.
I wonder how his performance was the next day. I should quote tweet that and say, did you win that week? Or did you win the next day? All right, well, we'll have some of this conversation with Aaron Feld, just kind of the crazy things, the crazy conversations that take place for a college football team. All that and more next right here on Jocks. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. It is 7:23, February 13th, right here on Jocks. Appreciate you being in. Aaron Feld, longtime college strength coach, joining us in studio now with Potomac's here in Birmingham. You heard a little bit of the earlier conversation with Joe Judge talking about things he had to try and educate college football players' girlfriends on. How many, not this instance in particular, we're not talking about that, but just how many like sidebar conversations, meetings, educational processes, I guess, how many of those take place with the college football team during the year that regular fans have no idea about?
And as a strength coach, man, I mean, that's, sets and reps is 10% of the job, man. Like, I can think of a specific athlete, he was struggling. He was trying really hard to be like a good dad and be present. His kid was about an hour away, and it was just constant back and forth. And, and not from a standpoint of like neglecting your fatherly duties acutely, because you got to do the best that you can. But one of the things I told him, I said, what is in your mind right now, what is the best way for you to provide for your family? And he says, well, go into the NFL. And he absolutely has the ability. I'm not going to say any names, but I mean, the dude is an NFL caliber player, and he's probably going to get drafted next year. But I'm like, so like short-term acutely, like, yeah, you don't want to abandon your kid or ignore your kid. But like if football, and you have a shot at it, is legitimately the best way to provide for your family long-term, like you have, for your family, you have to give it your best shot.
Yeah.
Now, this is me on the outside talking about, we're not talking about winning games. We're not talking, it's just like, but as an individual player, like if that's really your goal, then you got to give it everything you have. I mean, I think about my career as a strength coach. Like it was what I had to do for our family. It was the best way for me to earn a living. I wouldn't be able to be here right now if I hadn't have done the things that I did and given everything I had for as many years as I did. I wouldn't have financially been able to leave. I mean, I've talked to, a dozen strength coaches over the last few months that are just like, man, I wish I could do this. I wish I could, take a step back or whatever. I just can't afford that move right now. And so I tell like these guys, like, if that's really what your best bet is, your best shot is to provide and have a great financial future for your family, you got to go all in. And then there's some gray area. Like you don't want to neglect and you don't want to, be completely absent, but like you have a short earnings window and you have to take advantage of it.
No, it's no different now. Like you said, time away from family. It's Greg and I traveling on the weekends. I can imagine the hours you put in when you were actually the strength coach at Oregon or Miami, the early mornings you had to set that alarm and go, the times that you were just gone all day. And even things now when you have a meeting, you have a phone call. It's every parent has to juggle that. It is different, though, how at different points in your life that answer will change. When you first asked that question, if I'm sitting over here with an opportunity to go play in the NFL, it's probably very similar to what you just said, the answer. Now, the first thing that popped into my brain was, time. Just give them time. But I would have known that then, and you didn't have that time.
Yeah.
Or if it was an hour drive back and forth and you had to train to get to the NFL, that time was going to be just a little bit different. So it's kind of wild to think about. I want to rewind to the national championship game because we had you in a month or so before that. When you see those teams that are there, let's start with Miami. Where has Mario come the furthest? Where has he sort of grown the most? Because you were with him at Oregon, you're with him some at Miami. Now he gets a chance to actually go play for a national championship. You've seen how he's kind of molded his team. What do you see through your lens of maybe a couple of reasons that are a little bit different about him a little later in his career that he's been able to accomplish that potentially weren't there earlier, or that he's kind of morphed and changed?
Well, I mean, if you'll think back to our first conversation, I think you asked me like, why is he going to be successful? And what I said was like, he absolutely can be. And it's going to be predicated on and hinge on whether or not he allows the people around him to be elite at their jobs. Like he's obviously an elite recruiter, and that's not all he is. He puts in the hours, he works his tail off, but like he can lead that recruiting department and be the driver because he's the most talented. He's the best at that. But he's not the most talented and the best strength coach, and he's not the most talented and best defensive coordinator, and he's not the most talented and best offensive coordinator. And so when and that's, 3 examples out of 100, but like when you have people around you who are positioned and uniquely positioned to be the best at something, like letting them run and letting them do their job at a high level. And it really seems to me that he really did allow specifically Heatherman and Dawson to just kind of eat, and it showed. It showed in the smoothness of like very few times did play calls not get in, and very few times did were there like confusion errors, because it wasn't waiting on the head coach to make a call, then the defense coordinator has to do something, and then they got a signal to play. And it really just seemed like that happened so much less. And part of that's trust. Like, he doesn't want to be the head strength coach. He doesn't want to be the defense coordinator. He doesn't want to be the offensive coordinator. But if you don't give him the confidence that you are going to do it and going to be it, now part of that is, will he ever give you the confidence, or will he ever allow you? Will he have the confidence to do it? And I think he did. And so it's partially on the person to do all of the things. Be prepared, put the time in, and give him confidence. But he also, at the same time, has to eventually see it and give it and trust. And it comes down to trust. He's got to create the opportunity for trust to be built, and the other people have to build the trust.
All right, so you mentioned Mario and his sort of recruiting stature, being great at that. I've stated on the show and on other forums multiple times now that I think with where we are in today's college football, relatability for me has skyrocketed as far as how good of a head coach you're going to be, because you have to relate to your players now every single day. It's not just getting them there. It used to be, if you can get them there, good. You got them. They're probably not leaving. You're going to be able to make it. You're fine. Now you have to relate to them to the point where they want to stay every year. And then there's even other factors that are going to be involved. Well, now you got to go get these guys out of the portal. Like we talked to Bielema at the bowl game, and he said, portal recruiting is speed dating, man. He goes, I have about a 30-minute window that I have a chance to win this kid over, to even have a shot. Now, it's not over there, but we have maybe 24, 48 hours to even have a chance to get a guy, where it used to be they come in for an official visit, they come in for multiple unofficial visits. Like, we have all this time in traditional recruiting. You don't have it in the portal. I think relatability is more important than ever. Is that one of his bigger strengths?
Yeah, I think one of the things that he does really well, and I always admired this about him, was, he doesn't negative recruit. He never has. Now, he will tell you the truth. He'll give you the facts. Like when it comes to whether it's graduation rates or a specific, degree program, or, he'll tell you the truth. Like, hey, this school doesn't have this, or this school doesn't do this well, but he doesn't negative recruit. And I think there's two pieces to that. One, and I've even heard him when they would try to draw comparisons in a head coach meeting or one-on-one meeting or whatever, he'd say, well, we're not going to talk about that. Like, let's talk about why Miami's the right fit for you. And it really does matter when you're out here just bashing other people. Diminishing somebody else doesn't elevate you. The perceived gap can increase, but all we ever did was elevate our program and what we were doing. And it's just like in business, man. If you're trying to sell a product by bashing another product, you're not creating value and telling them why your product is better. And I think that's one of the things that he does probably at the highest level. And so, he's not soft, and he's not nice, and he's not fluffy. It seems genuine when you're saying, hey, look, we could talk about all that stuff, but it's not relevant. It has no bearing on what we do here. And I think people really trust and respect that. And I will also say that he is honest. He will tell you the truth, warts and all. And I don't think he's ever made a claim to a kid that he didn't have 100% full intention of honoring. Now, we all know we try to do our best, and we give we shoot for the stars, and sometimes we land on the moon. But I don't think anyone ever looks up and says, man, I was misled, I was lied to, whatever. And I think that trust, the hundreds of players over the years that he's made big promises to, that he's basically mostly delivered on. And if he didn't, it was situational or circumstantial that he couldn't control. And it's people hear that, and that's the conversation. So it's not, oh, he's fun and I love hanging out with him and whatever. So relatability in that regard is more about trust and genuine honesty and clarity. And I think he does that at a high level.
Yeah, absolutely. Aaron Feld, who has been the strength coach at Oregon, at Miami, Homewood Native, played his college football at Mississippi State, sitting in studio with us for a couple of segments. I want to flip that to the other team that Miami played in Indiana, and just kind of your perception, what you saw. How does a team get to build the way that they did? Not just from a player perspective, but from maybe a unity perspective. And why are more teams not doing this? I think Aaron can add an interesting perspective as to how teams are built and why they maybe can or cannot get to where Indiana was. We'll discuss all that and more next right here on Jocks. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. 7:36 right here on Jocks. Listen online, jocksfm.com. The app is in your app store, iPhone, Android. You can download that for free. Aaron Feld sitting in studio, longtime college strength coach, has been at Georgia, Alabama, head strength coach at Oregon, Miami, played football at Mississippi State, Homewood High School, now with Potomac's here in Birmingham. You and I had a conversation about Indiana not long ago, and just I was telling you my favorite part about them was that they were a team to the nth degree. We read some numbers off yesterday. I mean, Fernando Mendoza had one 300-yard game this year. One. The fact that they had the Heisman Trophy winner is going to be the number one pick in the draft, and they didn't roll him out there every week and say, go win the game. Like, it was almost the opposite of that. How does a coach get to that? Mm-hmm. How does a coach get to where do you begin to build? How do you begin to build the not just the unselfish nature, but just the do your job, understand your role? Because when I watch that defense operate, when it is a D tackle going to work a twist and he's the penetrator, he has no desire to go make the sack. Mm. It is, let me open this up for the other guy because that is my job on this play. Mm. And they did it as well or better than anybody I've seen in a long time. how do you get to that as a head coach? How do you get the guys to buy that consistent just execution that may never be rewarding for you individually? It will be when you win the game, but not to the extent of like where we see a lot of these other players wishing they could get to these days.
Yeah, well, there's two pieces to that. One, when a D tackle opens up a gap, holds his lane, doesn't let the quarterback get outside of him, and opens a sack for the other guy, I promise you at practice, they're celebrating that D tackle as much, if not more, than the guy who actually made the play. That's the carrot part of it.
Right.
But what I think from Cignetti is, and I don't know him personally, but just on the outside looking in, that team played harder than any team I've ever seen in my life. They performed harder and with more effort than any team I've ever seen in my life. And here's the difference. Some teams prioritize and glorify effort, and that's great. That's great. If you play harder than everybody, most of the times you will win. It seemed to me that Indiana glorified and really promoted performance. So when you talk about defining toughness, so a lot of people say toughness, you say define toughness for me. They're like, oh, it's when you get up when you get knocked down, or you keep going when you're tired. And those are absolutely things mentally tough people do.
Playing with a broken leg.
Yeah, yeah. I ain't never been nothing but a winner. But it's like, if you define mental toughness, I define mental toughness as sustaining the highest level of focus, dedication, and performance throughout an entire competitive calendar. And sustain means to continuously do without interruption. All right, the highest level, not just any level of focus, dedication. Focus means be where your feet are. So like completely present in the moment. And dedication means wherever that moment is, practice, walkthrough, class, whatever. But then the last piece that people forget is performance. You can outwork a lot of people and still lose. And if you prioritize performance, then being mentally tough doesn't just mean I work hard, right? Because anybody can work hard and push themselves into the ground. But if you work hard with the idea that I'm trying to perform at a high level, and if I train too hard Monday through Friday and it keeps me from performing at a high level on Saturday, that's not mentally tough. That's not mentally tough as a coach. That's not mentally tough as a player. If I'm a player and I'm going and doing hours and hours and hours of extra work because I didn't work hard enough at practice, or even if I did work hard enough at practice and that prevents me from recovering to have an elite day the next day, then that's soft. It's mentally weak. Can you maximize your practice time and get better the way you need to in practice time with an appropriate dose of practice time, like Cignetti talked about, and then perform at a high level on Saturday? When you prioritize performance over effort, effort has to be there. It's automatic.
Sure.
But if I want to build a team that plays hard, I have to practice hard. If I want to practice hard, I have to give them an appropriate dose of practice where every rep that they take is max effort. And that may drastically reduce the volume. So it's always killed me. You go into training camp or spring ball, the first two practices are just like bloodbath. The coaches are itching. They got the pads on. They're out there, crushing people, full tackle and shells, or in a lot of teams will tackle better in helmets and shorts than they do with pads on because they only do it when they're fresh, right? And so it's like we crush them the first two practices, but it's like I don't want to go 70% for 2 hours and then slowly increase the intensity. I want to go 100%. For whatever length of time I can get out of them. And there were times towards the end when we finally got this concept across that our last period of practice was supposed to be a full speed practice, turned into a walkthrough. All right. Now it was a half measure. We didn't quite get where we needed to go, but like if you appropriately dose practice so that you can absolutely go as hard as you possibly can. If I ever put my hand in the ground, the ball snapped, it's everything I got. And the players have to trust that the volume of practice is going to allow them to do that. The coaches have to trust that if they have a shorter volume practice, that the players are going to play like that. And then you go talk what Mike Vrabel said, I believe it was, talking about you don't want to give them deadhead. They got 20-minute meetings and they go do something else that's interactive. And they might have 5 different meetings for the same amount of meeting time, but it's in small chunks. Like, can you maximize the minutes that you're in there and stop this like outwork, more time, more effort, more energy? But if it doesn't have performance, it's pointless.
You know where I feel like I hear this a lot now, and I didn't used to hear it even like 5 years ago in college football, is everywhere I go and there's someone referenced at every school with every team of, oh, he gets to the building 5:30 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't leave until 8.
Mm-hmm.
And there are parts of me sitting there thinking, all right, honestly, what are you doing for 15 hours? There's just not that much that can be done.
Mm-hmm.
If it goes back to what you were saying earlier of, well, if you haven't done the other stuff and you're catching up, then you might need 15 hours
mm-hmm.
to actually get your work done. it feels like it goes back to that old mantra, work smarter, not harder.
Yeah.
But like you said, you still have to work hard.
Yeah.
But if you're not working smarter, it doesn't matter how hard you work.
Well, with my strength staff, I always told them, like, if everything's done that needs to be done today, because there's always work to do. If everything's done that has to be done today and you're ready for tomorrow, get out of here. Because if I can get you out of here 2 hours earlier on average, for the once a month or once every 6 weeks, I got to call you at 7 p.m. Like, hey, I need you to meet me back at the facility. We got to do some stuff. I don't have to feel bad about it.
Right.
The wives are not like, oh, you're going to go back to work again. It's like they get it. They're getting home at 3 o'clock. Every now and again, we got to come back for a nighttime meeting or whatever. It happens. But like, don't sit at your desk. Don't work out for 2.5 hours. Now, if that's what you want to do, but the rest of the time you're getting after it. But like I see all the time, coaches they're watching podcasts or they're doing YouTube. You're on YouTube or they're on their phone or whatever. It's like, dude, work. Like, I don't want you to work 12 hours if you don't have to. But when you're here, I want you to work.
Yeah.
So we get here at 6 a.m. to start a 7 a.m. lift. If you want to get here at 5 and work out, cool. I want you out the door. I'm the only one that's got to stay for staff meetings. I don't get here at 5 a.m. I get here a minute before I need to be ready to roll. I walk in, my shoes are tied, I put my bag down, I'm full speed from that point on. And so, like, I don't want you to waste minutes in the between time. Like, just work the entire time you're here and go home when it's done and spend those extra 2 hours with your family so that when I have to take your time away from your family, because I'm not going to feel bad about it.
Right.
And if you stay till 5 o'clock, that's your problem.
It also feels like what you're saying, if there's reality to this, that what Signetti said, I think it was late in the season or after the season, about his practice time is probably very real. Of they never practice more than 90 minutes.
Yeah.
Like he's not out there having these marathon practices of like, let's see how long we can stay out here, which is very different from when you and I played college football, because it was literally, what does the NCAA allow? Okay, we'll be out here 30 minutes past that. Yeah. And then we're going to try to snake in a few more periods after that as well. Like, let's get out here, let's get our work done, and then let's go. Like I told you, but when Brother Oliver took over for Terry Bowden, we were having 22, 24-period practices every day. And the first team meeting, he said, our practice is about to be cut in half. Yeah. And we were like, heck yeah, let's go. And he said, and I'm going to tell you why. It's not because I like you guys and I want it to be easier. Why are the twos getting the same reps as the ones? Yeah. They are not going to play as much as the ones. Yeah. The ones are going to play 80, 90% of the snaps. So they're going to get 80, 90% of the snaps in practice. The twos are going to get 10 to 20%. And then we're going to be finished, because that's how it should operate, because that's how the games are going to operate, which goes back to what you're saying a moment ago.
Well, I think back to when I played for Coach Courtroom, and Coach, if you're listening, I'm sorry. Well, we'd be halfway through a practice, 97 degrees out in Starkville. He'd be like, hey, start this thing over from warm-ups. And we'd be like.
Jimbo Fisher had us start practice over a couple of times.
Now, at that time, though, we weren't super talented. We had superstars speckled around everywhere. But, like, we really did outwork everybody. And it allowed us to win games we shouldn't have won. But there were games where we didn't have the juice to even play to our own level. But we took over a Jackie Sherrill era where it was a little bit more like player centric, and like it was fun, and it was kind of like I don't want to say prima donna, because it's still that Southeastern Conference, that Mississippi mindset, right? But
Eric Bowles is ordering pizza to practice,
right? And we had to change some of that, and it worked. But then you saw what happened when Dan Mullen came in with that base of grit and toughness and Mississippi pride, and then started peppering in some of that like performance base. It's not so. I mean, we only won 5 games Mullen's first year because he refused to compromise on the way he wanted things done. It didn't matter if it was Courtroom or Mullen or whoever. We were going to win a bunch of games the next year, but we made so many changes that turned into one of the most successful decades in Mississippi State history. Yeah. And I admire that he didn't sacrifice for that. But they had to change that mentality of this is not a hobby. This is a profession. And that was the mindset that we had the 5 years that I was there.
All right, we'll get to a couple other things around current college football with Aaron Feld here in studio next on Jocks. So much knowledge to be gained from Aaron Feld here in studio. Played his college football at Mississippi State, head strength coach at Oregon, at Miami, been at a plethora of other schools, and now here with Potomac's in Birmingham. First, tell our listeners how they can be a part of that and what you guys do for everybody here in the Magic City.
Yeah, so Potomac's is concierge, white glove medicine, and health and wellness. We do everything from the clinical side, direct primary care, to fitness and nutrition. But it's not just here locally. Like anybody all across the country can be a part of Potomac's. We have Potomac's Research Labs, or it's Fitness Research Labs Insider, where anybody pretty much from any state can do self-guided blood work. I know a lot of people, doctors won't order blood panels for you unless there's a reason, whatever. But dude, it's your blood, it's your data. You should absolutely have access to that. So if as a premium insider, you can do self-guided labs, any kind of markers that you want to look at. Potomac's happens to have the lowest prices on every single biomarker with LabCorp and Quest that it exists. We're a small company and shouldn't have those prices, but our CEO, Dr. Cody Hahn, has a great relationship with all of these service centers and has been able to, we did it to provide this value to our members here locally, but it turned into there's a need for it. And so you have these like multi-million-dollar companies out there that are just collecting all these blood samples and everything like that for people, and there's a better way to do it, and it actually comes with PhD and MD guidance on what your lab panels tell you. So I highly encourage you to go check it out at potomacs.org, Research Labs Insiders, so that you can do whatever blood work, biomarkers that you want to do at your own pace for your own reasons.
All right, I want to go a little different direction with you here because you're still involved in performance. What's next in college sports, college football? We have come to these GPS trackers, the way that you track internal load, things like that you've talked about. What do you see on the horizon of where some of this is going to go as far as how guys train, how guys are monitored, how maybe we go further in preventing injury, anything of that nature?
Well, one of the coolest things that's going on, there's a guy named Harrison Whittles who operates Tiger Tech. It's a wearable device. It's not available to the public, and Miami doesn't have. He consults with them. He helps them collect data and interprets it for them. But they do a lot of government contracting, and so it's really more of like we're kind of the test lab for them, so they can advance the product. But one of the things, like they're measuring body temperature, internal load with heart rate, their pulse ox, HRV, all the things that you have these wearable devices. But this actually has an EKG in it, and so we're actually measuring internal load. And so we're measuring our off-season practice or training sessions and then our practices. And so we actually had a plan, a stair-step plan to get them ready for game one, which is why we've always crushed it week 1 and week 2. I mean, you saw it this year against Notre Dame, the year before against Florida. But Harrison's actually looking into something that's really, really cool, and it's about how athletes learn. And so you have two types of athletes. You have the athletes that learn really well in the classroom setting in meetings, and then you have the athletes that learn really well out on the field. And then both of those athletes, when you add the stress of game time and the intensity of game time, half of them excel and then half of them struggle. And it's like, so where do they fall on the spectrum? Do they handle the stress well? Does that make them better, or does that make them worse? Because if you know the playbook backwards and forward and you freeze under pressure, that's not good. So he's actually working on a software to help, help players learn their playbook. And without getting into the details and giving away his IP, but it's about adding audio visual cues with a stress response. And so it's an interactive system. It's not on the market yet. It's something he's developing, and it's going to be the next big thing in college. Like you put your plays in, you have your checks, your pre-snap reads, if this, then that, but the whole while you're being stressed cognitively, and then audio visual cues. And it's like, so can you bridge the gap between the guys that know the playbook in the meetings and the guys that freeze on the field, and the guys that are just really good under pressure, but they struggle in the classroom. So it's like an interactive way to learn your plays in the environment, the psychological environment that's going to help them perform on the field. To me, that's the next big thing. When coaches learn how to teach their players in game situation, I don't mean like physically, but like neurocognitively in game situations and game stresses and game speeds, and the game slows down when they're out there doing it, that's and that's honestly what I saw from Indiana. It seemed like the more intense the game was, the more locked in and dialed in they were.
Yeah, they never got phased.
Yeah.
It didn't feel like.
And it feels like because of the way they practice, they probably practice faster and harder than they actually played. So like when I was a long snapper at practice, the goal, I snapped the ball as hard as I could. If it was a little off, fine. I mean, everything I had. And so in games, I snapped at 98% with extreme control. And it really felt like that from Indiana. It's like their practices were all out. You know, their pulls, their blocks, their screens. I mean, it was max effort,
Yep.
you know, to the wall, right? And then when they got in games, they clicked it back one notch to have extreme control, no missteps, no stumbles. And that's why it just looked so smooth, even though the dudes were like vibrating at how hard they were playing. And that's why it's like it was just glaring between every team that they played. And again, Miami played them really, really hard, but it just wasn't the same intensity.
It almost feels like I remember when I asked Pete Golding about Malachi Moore and why he was going to be able to play early. This is during COVID. And he said, well, Malachi is one of my only visual learners. So I can put it on the board and then he can apply it to the field. Very few guys can do that. Most athletes are kinesthetic learners, audio, visual, kinesthetic. And so it sounds like it's bridging the gap of all of those, a little bit of here's your playbook. You are dominant in learning one of these ways, but let's let all of these ways help you learn your playbook.
Absolutely.
It's pretty cool stuff. So, man, I wanted to ask you about Ruben Bain, too, and we're not going to have time to do that. So, one of my favorite guys to watch in college football this year. We'll do that next time.
Exceptional human.
Thanks for hopping in. Thanks for spending some time with us. Fitomics.com.
Yes, sir.
Go check them out today.
Fitomics.org.
.org, excuse me. Go see what they can do for you. We'll be back with Josh Pate next right here on Jocks.